weekend, I'd like to start a new Christmas series where today is actually Advent and we're headed into this Christmas season. And I just want to tell you, I love Christmas. I mean, I absolutely love it. It is my favorite time of the year. I mean, I love how everyone across the board is generous. It's like generosity is just a part of Christmas, and I love that. I love that we're saying Christmas, Christ. People in the world even are like, oh, it's Christmas. And like, haha, it's Jesus time is what it is. And I just love it. I love the spirit of Christmas. I love the joy of Christmas. I told you guys about my elf costume. Well, I just wanted to throw this up here and prove that, there you go, right there. There's me, Buddy the Elf, with Pinky's awesome tree that she put up and had done. But I love it. I love it so much, I wear a Buddy the Elf costume. That's how much I love Christmas. And so we're going into Christmas, and we're starting a new series today, and I want to call it Unwrapping Christmas. And so Christmas is just full of, the Christmas story is just full of what God has done for us. And so I thought throughout the series, we'll just get into this, and we'll unwrap some of these gifts that God has given us through Christmas. And so today, we're going to talk about the gift of hope. The gift of hope. I have to start this message off with telling you kind of a sad story. So for the first 16 years of my life, my family didn't celebrate Christmas. And you have to rewind and go back to my mom's story. So my grandparents, my mom's parents, they joined this church, and it was such a weird church. And actually, later on when I was in college, I was studying and reading a book on cults, and this church was in this book that my family was a part of. I'm like, whoa, wait, what? What? And so anyways, it was so weird because they were very legalistic, but they would pick and choose what they were legalistic about. And so they decided that Christmas was pagan. I mean, I didn't even know what pagan meant, but I knew I could say Christmas is pagan. And so, we were asked all the time, do you even believe in Jesus? I'm like, I think so. I don't know. I was a little kid. All I knew is I wasn't allowed to celebrate when all the other kids were. And so my dad, thank God for my dad, I was about 12, I'd say 12 or 13 or so. And he was just like, I'm not going back to that place. So thank God. And so we just kind of fell out of that, but we really didn't pick up any other church. And it took a while to get some of that stuff off of us. And finally, at the age of 17, I had my first Christmas, and that's where it all started. Yeah, I was Buddy before Buddy was in existence. But I still didn't really understand what Christmas was all about. And so what Christmas became for me was good presents and good family time and good food. And so Christmas really was commercialized for me. And I really didn't have a good understanding of it. And so I put all my hope in to the presents. I put all my hope into the good time that we were going to have. But it always seemed to fall short. It always seemed to come up short in my heart. And it was either that I didn't get the exact gift that I was hoping for, or even if I did get the right gift, it didn't do what I thought it was going to do, Or the family time didn't end up being as fun as I thought it was going to be. You know what I'm saying? If you've ever hung out with your family, you know what I'm talking about. Some of you are laughing harder than others. And usually, all the good food like this Thanksgiving, usually it was good. I ended up getting too much weight and had to work it off the next year. And so everything just seemed to fall short, and everything that I put my hopes and dreams on really fell short. And I didn't have an understanding of what Christmas really is. And I think that this happens to us when we put our hopes into things. We put our hopes into stuff. We put our hopes into things other than the hope that God gave us at Christmas time. This is what we do. This is what we do. We put our hope in a desired outcome. We put our hope into hoping things will work out a certain way. Now, hope is a confident expectation. Hope is a confident expectation. We expect something to go a certain way. And so we put this on our stuff, as I was saying. Have you ever bought a car and it's like, this is the dream car? And you just knew, when I get that car, everything's gonna change. I think the guys can probably relate a little bit more, but some of you ladies know what I'm talking about. And you're just like, oh man, you've got it, you've got that car in your mind, you know what color you want. And then you're like, okay, this car is gonna change my status. It's gonna change my status on the road. It's gonna change my status with my friends. They're gonna see me in it, And then you go along, this car will be an expression of who I wanna be. It's gonna change everything. And then you get the car. And you drive it around a little bit, and it falls flat. And you just realize, this really didn't do what I thought it was gonna do. It really didn't accomplish what I thought it was gonna accomplish. And you put your hope into this thing, and it just falls short. There's a level of hope that the car, or maybe it's a house for you, or whatever possession, you put your hope that it will bring satisfaction, that it will bring security to you. And then when you get it, it's kind of like, well, we got our house now. It's just a house. And it just falls flat. The outcome doesn't go the way you thought that it was going to go. We do this with our health. I know a lot of you are healthy people. You try to eat healthy, and you try to live a healthy lifestyle, but your hope for your healthy life falls into your ability to be healthy and your ability to eat right. And so you eat right and you exercise, except for, Thanksgiving. We didn't really eat right that day. But on the normal basis, you try to eat right, and you try to stick to your exercise programs. But I'm going to be real with you. It freaks me out whenever I hear stories of people who are like super healthy and they do all the right things, and then they have a heart attack, or they have some kind of disease or some kind of illness. It freaks me out because I'm like, man, if they are going through that, oh man. And so all our hope is in our ability to eat right and to eat healthy. And then you get that diagnosis from the doctor that doesn't look so good. And then we turn to medicine, we turn to procedures, and all of that is great. I'm not downplaying that. But we put all our hope into that. And then what happens when it doesn't work? What happens when that medicine just doesn't do what they said it was going to do? What happens when the procedure doesn't fix the problem? All our hope that we put into that, squashed, gone. And we just continue to put our hope into outcomes, our hope into things, and all hope is lost when those things fall short. Over and over, our hopes are misplaced. Our hopes are put in the wrong place. This happens in our relationships. Our marriages, our friendships, our family relationships. We go into a relationship with all these expectations. This is the one. This is the one. I've found the one. And then you get married. The young people, you get married and it's like, wake up call, hello, this is nothing what I thought it was going to be. And you had so much hope in that relationship and in that person. And then that person lets you down because they're a person, they're people, we're all human. We all bring our junk to the table. But all our hope is in that person to be the one. And it happens in friendships. You start off and you're like, oh, I love this person. Oh man, we're kindred spirits. I love this. And then some friction happens. You're like, I can't believe them. I can't believe that. And all your hope that you had in that squashed and gone. I mean, even, this is the worst. Even for people who get a divorce and go through a divorce and they start over and they find a new relationship and they go into this new relationship saying, I did it one time. I know what happened. I know I messed up these things. I'm going to go into this relationship different. This is going to be better. I found the one, the real one this time. And I found it's going to be so much better going into this. And then you get into it and it's exactly the same. It's the exact same stuff. Because our hopes are misplaced. Our hopes are in that person to fulfill something on the inside of us. Our hopes are in an outcome of that person acting a certain way or being a certain way. My question is, are we misplacing our hope in those situations? Our hope's in the wrong place sometimes. And now we're facing this new dynamic of social media. Some of you guys are on Facebook, you're on social media, and you put your post on there, and I've seen it. You gotta pose everything up for your picture, you gotta get it just right. You take a few, no, that one's not good enough. And you redo it. Oh, you get over here. Oh, the lighting's better. You gotta get that selfie just right. Then you post it, and you're like, every once in a while I'll jump on there. How many likes did I get today? And then nobody comments. Nobody really likes it. Maybe you got a couple. And that feeling on the inside of you is like, oh, nobody likes me. Nobody likes my post. And our hopes are just squashed. They're crushed. But Christmas brings a hope that will never let us down. Christmas brings a hope that never fails. Never fails. So as we dig into this, I want to start with the prophet Isaiah. So Isaiah was a man who wrote about all of this stuff happening in Christmas 700 years before it happened. He wrote about this hope that we're talking about. And so in Isaiah chapter 9, we start in verse 1. He says, nevertheless, that time of darkness and despair will not go on forever. The land of Zebulun and Naphtali will be humbled, but there will be a time in the future when Galilee of the Gentiles, you know who's from Galilee, which lies along the road that runs between the Jordan and the sea, will be filled with glory. He's talking about Jesus 700 years, over 700 years before Jesus came. Man, the Bible's awesome. Man, the Bible is awesome. Tell me another situation where somebody 700 years earlier says, this is going to happen in this town, this way, and then it happens. People are like, that Bible's just made up. Well, they did pretty good. Verse 2. The people who walk in darkness will see a great light. For those who live in a land of deep darkness, a light will shine. You will enlarge the nation of Israel, and its people will rejoice. They will rejoice before you as people rejoice at the harvest, and like warriors dividing the plunder. For you will break the yoke of their slavery and lift the heavy burden from their shoulders. I love this line. It's my favorite in this passage. For you will break the yoke of their slavery. If you remember, in Romans chapter 6, Paul talks very specifically about our slavery, and that is our sin nature. When we are born into Adam. Adam sinned, and that sin nature entered humanity. And so we were slaves to sin. And so it says that he came to break the yoke of our slavery. And we know, as Romans 6:14, Paul says, sin is no longer your master. Jesus has broken the yoke of slavery of sin. And now we are capable, because of grace, we are able to live a life free from sin, free from the bondage of sin. Sin no longer has power over us because of this, because of Christmas, because of what Jesus has done. And he says, and lift the heavy burden from their shoulders. We also know from a lot of Paul's writing and other places in the New Testament that this heavy burden was the law. The law was given to show mankind's need for a Savior. The law was put to broadcast our sin, to expose our sin, to expose the fact that we can't do it on our own, and we need him. We need him. And so he lifts that heavy burden by taking that upon himself, the requirement of the law, and he fulfilled it. He continues on. You will break the oppressor's rod, just as you did when you destroyed the army of Midian. The boots of the warrior and the uniforms, blood-stained by war, will all be burned. They will be fuel for the fire. We don't war against flesh and blood. Our war is in the spirit realm. Verse 6, here we go. Here we go, verse 6. Christmas time. For a child is born to us. A son is given to us. It speaks to the gift that God has given. A son is given to us. The spotless Lamb of God. Given to us. The government will rest on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. His government and its peace will never end. He will rule with fairness and justice from the throne of his ancestor David for all eternity. The passionate commitment of the Lord of heaven's armies will make this happen. And so we see this prophecy over 700 years before Jesus came as a baby. And in the Gospel of Matthew, we see this fulfilled. Look at Matthew chapter 1. And in Matthew chapter 1, we start in verse 21. This is the angel talking to Joseph. And she, being Mary, will bring forth the son, and you shall call his name Jesus. For he will save his people from their sins. So all this was done that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the Lord through the prophet, saying, another place that Isaiah spoke, behold, the virgin shall be with child and bear a son, and they shall call his name Immanuel, which is translated, God with us. And here we have this gift at Christmas time that God has given us. This gift of hope. Through his son, a son is given. Jesus was given for us to save us from ourselves and save us from the sin enslavement. We're free. We're free. This gift of hope has made us free. Free to live for him. Free to live our lives. We're free because of this gift. And through this event of Christmas, God has given us the where to place our hope. Really, a better way to say it is God has given us to whom to place our hope. To whom do we place our hope? We place our hope in Jesus. Our hope is in Him. We shouldn't misplace our hope. Our hope has to continue to stay in Him. Jesus coming as a baby is the result of God's incredible love for us. Him coming as a man, born from a woman. God, in all His greatness, reduced down to human, not just a human, a vulnerable baby in a manger. I had this crazy thought. I wasn't going to share it because it just hit. It was in my brain. But I think I will share it. And it's a little out there, but I was thinking about this. I was thinking about God being so amazing and so big and so great and so mighty, reduce Himself down to a human baby. And I thought about, this is the picture I got. Don't judge me, but this is what went through my mind. I saw, those little ant cases where it's glass on both sides and you can see all the tunnels that the ants build. And there's a bunch of ants and it's like an ant farm. I don't know. I don't know if that was real. I've seen those things. I don't know what they're called. And in my mind, I saw all these little ants, and I thought, the ant population is going to perish unless I, as a human, become an ant. And I'm reincarnated as an ant. And I go to that ant farm. I told you it was a little out there. I go to that ant farm and I go there and I save all of those ants from eternity from death. And I go in there and I save them. That's the picture I thought for a second. How weird is that? How weird is that to think I'm a human, I'm going to turn into an ant to save a bunch of ants? What did God do for us? What did God do for us? He's God. The universe in the palm of His hands. Power at the tip of His tongue. All He has to do is speak. He's God Almighty. He made it all. He is all. And yet, He reduced Himself down. Paul talks about how Jesus didn't think it equal with God. He didn't use His deity. He put it kind of in His pocket, and He came as a human. And He lived a life as a human for our sakes. We take this gift way too lightly. We take this gift for granted, what God has done through Jesus. We don't spend enough time thinking about it, and we don't spend enough time letting it get into our hearts what God has actually done. I think for me, it changes my day when I start thinking about, wow, what God has done for me. It changes how I view the day. All of a sudden, stuff just doesn't seem as bad as it did. Because my hope begins to get onto Him. My hope, this gift that God has given me. Jesus is the proof that we can place all of our hopes in what God has promised us. He's the proof of it. We can place all of our hope into God's promises. Now, Paul speaks about this in his letter to the Romans. We talked about it before, but in Romans chapter 5, Paul speaks about this hope. And so in chapter 5, verse 1, he says, "Therefore, having been justified by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ, through whom also we have access by faith into this grace in which we stand and rejoice in hope of the glory of God. That is so loaded right there. Those two verses are so loaded. Our faith in what Jesus has done gives us access to God's grace. Our faith in what Jesus has done gives us access to all of the finished works, all of his finished works, the healing power that is at work in our bodies. It comes from his grace and our faith in that. Our salvation, all of the promises that came through the finished works of Jesus, we access it by faith. We believe in what he has done. Verse 3. And not only that, but we also glory in tribulations, knowing that tribulation produces perseverance or endurance. Trials produce endurance, and perseverance or endurance produces character, and character produces hope. Hope. It's crazy. Paul, James, Peter, they all talk about this. They all talk about how our trials produce something in us. What we go through produces something in us. I'll tell you, as Americans in this day, we just want things easy. We just want things microwavable and get it done, come easy, no problems. I mean, honestly, I feel like there's some days where I spend most of my day trying to avoid the problem or trying to make sure that a problem doesn't happen. And really, it's just not scriptural. We're reading it here. Paul's saying, listen, you're going to have trials. And those trials are going to produce something in you. It's going to produce endurance. And that endurance is going to produce character. It's going to make you better. It's going to make you a better person. And your character produces hope. Because all of a sudden, your hope's not in something that it was in before because there's a trial going on. You know, your hope was in that house bringing you security, and it doesn't. He's the only one that can do that. And so your hope begins to be put and placed in him. And our hope changes. Now hope, verse 5, now hope does not disappoint. Hope does not disappoint because the love of God has been poured out in our hearts by the Holy Spirit who was given to us. This hope doesn't disappoint. Doesn't disappoint. Man, I can tell you a bunch of times that I've been disappointed, where my hope was in something happening. My hope was in an outcome, and it didn't happen that way. And I was so disappointed so many times. He's saying here that this hope does not disappoint. My hope has been in the wrong place. My hope has been on the wrong thing. Thank God for this gift of hope at Christmas time. Our hope must be in him. We won't be disappointed. Listen to this real quick in Hebrews 6:19. The first part of this verse says, this hope we have as an anchor of the soul, both sure and steadfast. You think about an anchor on a ship, they drop the anchor down and the boat is there and the wind blows, but the boat doesn't move. The waves come crashing in a little bit, but the boat's not pushed around because the anchor is placed. And we place our anchor in Jesus. We place our anchor in him, not in those fancy things, not in a certain outcome, not in another person, but we put our anchor in him, in Jesus, and we're steadfast and we're held strong. Because of Christmas, we can find our hope in Jesus. Because of Christmas, because of what God has done, you should find your hope in Him, not in other things. The hope for your career or your retirement should come from Him. You know, you don't get the job that you wanted, or the promotion doesn't go through that you thought you were going to get. And all your hope was in that. And it doesn't go through. Or maybe there's a big investment that's going to change the way you retire, and it just falls through. And your retirement, you've got to change all your plans for that. It looks a little different now. We can't place our hope in those things. Our hope has to continually be placed on Him, because that stuff will let you down. But this hope will never disappoint. This hope will never disappoint. When you're in those moments, you think of Jeremiah 29:11. He says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future." This is our God. This is where our hope lies. We keep that hope in our heart. In our relationships. Maybe it's friendships, or we talked about it, your marriages, your family relationships. We have to get to the place, and you have to get to the place where you're not placing your hope in that person. Your hope that they're going to act a certain way, or they're going to treat you a certain way, or they're going to be a certain person, or they're going to change, or they're going to be better, or whatever it is. And your hope gets placed on them rather than on Him. When your hope is in Jesus for your fulfillment, you don't have to look at that other person for your fulfillment. He fulfills you. And I'm telling you, there's something special about this, because that gives you the freedom to now love that person the way that Jesus loved you. Because you don't need anything from them. Man, I want to get to that place. I want to get to that place where I don't need anything from my wife. I don't need anything from my family, my friends. I'm here to give. Because all of that need stuff, I take care of it with Him. I'm going to be real. I'm not there yet. I'm working on it. But man, how much more amazing is that? If I can walk in my house knowing I'm good. I'm good. You know why? All I have, all my hope, all my fulfillment is in Jesus. Every bit of it. Now I can look at my wife and say, hey, how can I love her better? How can I don't need her to do anything for me. I've got it. Can you imagine if both husband and wife are operating that way? It could get really special. If that happened in our friendships, there'd be a whole lot less drama in our lives if we operated this way in our friendships, in our relationships, in our families. Be a whole lot less drama. Because I don't need you to be anything a certain way. I don't need you to do anything. I have the choice to love you no matter what. And it's because I've got it going on right here. All my hope and all my fulfillment is in Him. And that gives me freedom. Our hope for healing, it's in Jesus. Thank God for doctors. Thank God for procedures. Thank God for all of that. And you do what you're led to do. I'm never going to stand in the way of that with my words. Never. You do what you need to do when it comes to doctors and that kind of thing. But I'm telling you what I am saying. Do not place your hope in those things, because they will let you down. There's only one hope that doesn't disappoint, and that's Him. Our hope has to be in Him. So the hope for our healing is in Jesus. The hope for our healing is in him, not medicine, not a procedure. Where your hope is, that's what I'm talking about. Not what you're doing, what you're walking out. You got to walk out what you got to walk out. But where's your hope? Where's your hope in this? Our hope for our prosperity is in Jesus. It's not the perfect job or the best investment. It's not a great economy. I mean, we've seen it in a matter of a couple years. It turned on its head. Can you imagine? I mean, we could face a day where everything just blows up and explodes and the whole internet goes down and all this digital money just bloop, gone. Let's like start from scratch. Who knows how to shoot a deer? You know what I mean? It could happen. If our hope is in how much money's in our bank account, if our hope is in that investment doing so well, man, we've got our hope in the wrong place. The hope for our prosperity and our security has to be in him. It has to be in him. It has to be. It cannot be in these other things. So that may mean that your perspective needs to change a little. It may mean the way you look at things may need to change a little. Listen to what Paul writes to the Corinthians in his second letter to the Corinthians, 2 Corinthians chapter 4. Verse 16, he says, "Therefore we do not lose heart. Even though our outward man is perishing, yet the inward man is being renewed day by day. For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, is working for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. While we do not look at things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporary, but the things which are not seen are eternal." Our hope should be the same. This should be the measure of our hope here. Is your hope in the natural, seen stuff? Your bank account, your house, your car, your relationships, that person. Oh, if I don't have that person, I just can't live. I mean, I get it. I don't want to live without Pinky. But my hope cannot be in her. And yours either. Your hope can't be in another person. There's only one where our hope lands. And there is a world that is unseen to our natural eye. This is a walk of faith. Really, hope and faith. I was going to get into this a little bit, but hope and faith have to work together. Hebrews chapter 1 talks about what faith is. Faith is this hope, this confident expectation in what God has done and will do. And we have faith in that. So our hope and our faith are connected. And so to say I'm a man of faith, but my hope is in something in something natural and something seen, but I say that I'm a man of faith, it's a conflict here. Our hope is in the eternal, the unseen. That's where our hope lies. And so we must remember in the midst of this life that there's something far greater than what we see with our eyes. Something far greater. I mean, this is the basis of our salvation. We believe that this life will be over, whether we die and go through the grave or whether we are caught up with Jesus in the air. It doesn't matter. We're going to heaven. There's a reality, and it's eternal, forever. Forever. We've got to keep that in our brains. We've got to keep that on our minds. We've got to keep that on our hearts. There is a reality far greater than this stuff that we see. We keep our hope in the eternal. And so as we enter this Christmas season, our hope should be on full blast. I'm telling you, get your hope meter out. Where's it at? Where's your hope level? I mean, mine's like, our hope is in the God who cannot lie. Our hope is in Immanuel. God is with us. He walks with us. Our hope is in Jesus who never forsakes us. Never forsakes us. Our hope is in Jesus who has overcome the world. Our hope is in the God who renews our strength like the eagles. You feeling weak? You feeling low? Where's your hope? What's your hope meter like? Our hope is in the one who fights for us, intercedes for us, who died for us. Our hope is in the one who lives in us. Our hope is in King Jesus.